The day you get fired might feel like the worst day of your life, but it might also be the day that changes your life forever. Or, what if I told you that the layoff letter you fear the most could actually be the greatest gift life ever gives you? I remember that morning vividly. I opened my email and saw the words, "We regret to inform you that we are terminating your employment." In that moment, my heart dropped. My ears rang. Every sound disappeared. I just sat there, staring at the screen, feeling like the entire world had closed in front of me. But the truth is, I'm not alone. Steve Jobs was fired from the very company he founded. Oprah Winfrey was let go from a TV station for being unfit for television. J.K. Rowling was unemployed, living on welfare before she wrote Harry Potter. They all had moments that seemed like the end, yet those moments turned out to be the brilliant beginning of something new. Have you ever felt like that? One day, you're standing strong in your job, your relationship, your family, and in just one moment, everything falls apart. You sit there, asking yourself, what do I have left? That question can feel terrifying. But what if you looked at it differently? What if what I thought was the end is actually the beginning? Stay with me until the end of this story, because I'm going to share with you a journey through pain, collapse, and the struggle to rise again. A story that might change how you see failure, loss, and your own life. In America today, millions of people face layoffs every year. No one is ever truly prepared for that shock. One day you're a hardworking employee, giving your hours and your sweat. The next day, you're an outsider dismissed with just a few lines in an email. The shock isn't only about losing income. It strikes straight at your self-worth, at the belief that I matter. We live in a society where work is tied to identity. Meet someone new, and the first question is usually, what do you do? So when the job disappears, it's easy to believe that you have disappeared too. And the pressure doesn't stop at career. It cracks into the heart. Mental health, anxiety, relentless stress, even depression. Relationships, loneliness, disconnection, drifting from family and friends. Meaning of life. You might achieve success on the outside, salary, title, numbers, yet still feel empty inside. The real pain isn't just losing a job. It's losing the answer to a deeper question. Who am I if I'm not this title? And here's the paradox. Sometimes that very crisis opens a different door. A chance to pause, to look inward, and ask with honesty, what life do I truly want to live? Maybe the day you get fired could be the very day that changes your life forever if you choose to see it through a new lens. The first morning after I lost my job, I woke up to a strange silence. No alarm clock blaring, no endless to-do list waiting, just a vast emptiness filling the room. I sat up, staring at the ceiling, and felt like I had disappeared from the world. That morning, instead of rushing out the door, I just sat still. I didn't know what to do. My desk at work already had someone else sitting there. My employee badge, once a symbol of value and busyness, was now just a useless piece of plastic hidden in a drawer. Fear started creeping in. I asked myself, how am I going to pay rent this month? What if I can't find another job? The more I thought, the harder it was to breathe. It felt like falling into a bottomless pit. The more I struggled, the deeper I sank. The days that followed were even worse. I opened social media and saw friends posting about new projects, big achievements, glamorous vacations. And me? I had nothing to show but silence. Each scroll made me feel like I was falling further behind, smaller, more worthless. At night, I lay awake, tossing and turning. Questions haunted me. Am I a failure? Do I still have value without this job? My body was exhausted, but my mind refused to rest. Every time I closed my eyes, images of unpaid bills, heavy responsibilities, and fears of the future replayed like a nightmare. I felt like I had been thrown off a moving ship. Everyone else kept sailing ahead, while I was left adrift in the ocean. No map, no direction, not knowing which way to swim. According to the American Psychological Association, people who remain unemployed long-term are 2 to 3 times more likely to develop depression than those with steady work. Because work isn't just income, it's meaning, it's social identity, the sense that you're contributing, that you have a place in the world. And when that's ripped away, the mind spins into confusion and despair. That's exactly what I was going through. It wasn't just about losing a paycheck. It was losing my sense of who am I in this world. The real pain didn't come from losing a job. It came from a false belief I had carried for years. My value depends on my title and my work. When the job disappeared, I thought my value disappeared too. But the truth was, I was still here. I was still breathing, still alive, still capable of creating value in another way. I just couldn't see it at the time. One night, I took out pen and paper and wrote down every thought tormenting me. I'm not good enough. Without this job, I'm useless. Nobody needs me anymore. Then I paused, looked at each line, and asked, is this really true? The answer was, no. They were just panic-fueled thoughts, not absolute truths about who I am. Those early days after being fired were the darkest. I wrestled with emptiness, with a flood of negative beliefs. But it was in that lowest place, when I felt I had nothing left to hold on to, that I began to hear a different question. Weeks later, I sat in a familiar coffee shop, my laptop closed, a blank page in front of me, pen trembling in my hand. I had no clear plan, just an urge. Write something, anything. And I began with one simple question. What if this isn't the end, but the beginning? The moment those words appeared on the page, something shifted inside me. For weeks, I had focused only on what I had lost. But this question turned the lens around. Instead of looking at the loss, I started looking at what could be created. A few days later, I ran into an old friend. He had been through something even worse, jobless for nearly a year, judged by everyone, even losing his home. But that day, his eyes shone with excitement as he described a small project he had started, rooted in a passion from his college days. I asked, how did you get back up? He smiled. I realized I had nothing left to lose. And from there, I finally tried what I really wanted. His words struck me like lightning. I realized the thing holding me back wasn't circumstance, it was fear. Fear of failing again, fear of being wrong, fear of not being enough. I remembered a familiar image. After a massive storm, the streets are wrecked, trees fallen, roofs torn apart. At first, all you see is destruction. But for the farmer, the storm also clears the weeds, making the soil ready for new seeds. Losing my job was like that. Yes, it destroyed the familiar, but it also cleared space, a fresh field. The question was, what seeds would I plant? A Harvard study found that resilience, the ability to bounce back after failure, has more impact on long-term happiness than income or status. People who learn to turn hardship into opportunity often live healthier, more fulfilled lives. That made me think, maybe setbacks aren't enemies. Maybe they're teachers. They don't come to destroy us. They come to show us how strong we really are. That night, I opened my journal again and wrote another question. If I weren't bound by fear, what would I choose? I sat there quietly, pen resting on the page, as answers surfaced. Learn a new skill. Try something creative. Slow down to truly know myself. It wasn't fireworks. No big dramatic moment. Just a small question, but one that opened a door to a new path. Crises aren't always thieves of happiness. Sometimes, they're the invisible hands that push us off the wrong road and onto the right one. I once thought the day I was fired was the day I lost everything. But looking back, It was the day I started finding myself again. I want you to try this right now. Take a piece of paper. Write, what if this isn't the end, but the beginning? Then write, if I weren't bound by fear, what would I choose? Don't overthink. Just write whatever comes. You might be surprised to find the answers inside you are clearer than you thought. That moment didn't solve everything. I still had bills. I still had worries. But in my heart, a small spark of belief lit up that I could rebuild. And sometimes, just one small spark is enough to light the way through darkness. From then, I began taking small steps to rebuild my life. Instead of staying stuck in fear, I tried something new each day, no matter how small. Day 1, I rewrote my resume, not just listing jobs, but asking, what am I truly good at? What core values can I offer the world? Writing that, I realized I was more than a title. I had skills, resilience, and the ability to connect things I had overlooked. Day 2, I enrolled in an online creative course I had always wanted to try. It felt like being back in college, excited, nervous, but alive. And deep inside, a belief began to grow. I can learn again, I can grow again, I can start again. Rebuilding felt like a tree enduring a brutal winter. Bare branches, stripped down, appearing dead. But when spring came, new buds began to push through. Slow, small but certain. I was that tree. At first, my changes were tiny. One class, one networking event, one page in my journal. But those were the buds of a new version of me. According to HeartMath Institute, when people find their purpose, their bodies enter coherence, a state where heart and brain synchronize. This reduces stress, boosts creativity, and strengthens resilience. I felt that shift. When I started doing things aligned with meaning, not just chasing money or titles, my mind grew calmer, my body less tense, and hope returned. Months later, I tried a small freelance project. It began as writing advice for a friends group, then grew into new clients. The income wasn't huge, but it showed me I could stand on my own. More importantly, I felt authentic. Not a title in someone else's company, but a person offering real value. Bit by bit, I rebuilt my confidence. I stopped defining myself by a job title. Instead, I asked, does what I'm doing reflect who I truly am? I realized, failure doesn't define you. How you rise after failure defines you. The day I was fired once felt like the darkest. But looking back, it was the day life handed me a chance to be reborn. I want you to try this after listening. Write down 3 things you learned from a past setback. Next to each one, write, how did this make me stronger? You'll see that the very things that once knocked you down are the foundations that help you stand today. Rebuilding isn't easy. It takes time, patience, and courage to accept small steps. But like the tree after winter, you'll see, life is still there, waiting to awaken. And when you believe you can bloom again, your whole garden of life begins to change. Looking back, I see that the day I got fired wasn't the worst day of my life. It was the day I was given a gift, a chance to stop, reflect, and begin again. Without that shock, I might still be running endlessly on the hamster wheel, exhausted, never asking, is this truly the life I want? There's one image I'll never forget. After a storm, the field looks ruined, muddy, messy, broken. But that same field, once cleared, becomes the most fertile ground for new seeds. Life's storms are the same. They can knock us down, leave us in pain. But sometimes, they're simply clearing the ground for the seeds we were meant to plant. The message I want to leave you with is this: you are not defined by what you've lost. You are defined by the steps you choose next. Jobs change, titles fade, but your true value, your resilience, your kindness, your ability to learn, and your love for life remain unshaken. And sometimes, the moment you think every door has closed is the very moment the most important door opens. the door leading you back to the person you were always meant to be. So if today you're facing a setback, a job loss, a breakup, a painful change, remember, this isn't a period, it's a semicolon, a pause, before a new chapter begins. I want to hear your story. Have you ever faced something that felt like the end, but later realized it was the beginning? Share it in the comments. Because maybe your story will be the light for someone else out there. Someone who needs hope, just like you and I once did. When you tell your story, you're not just healing yourself. You're giving the world a gift. The gift of truth, of hope, of strength to rise again. Because sometimes, losing a job or any kind of loss isn't the end. It's life's way of reminding you that you are ready for a new beginning. And that beginning could change your life forever.